What's going on, everybody? Happy Thursday?
Yeah.
I believe it is Thursday today. So Nancy and I are in here. I want to come to you guys live because I wanted to break this down. We had an awesome event last night, so thank you for everybody who came out. I think we had, over like 80 people or something like that showed up last night. So super cool, some great feedback, some things we need to improve on. One of the things I wanted to actually break down, we talked about how to find and fund deals with low or no money down last night. So I'm going to give you guys a real life example. We have a property that we're going to be at tonight doing an inspection. If you guys want to come walk through this thing, you're welcome to join us. It's 602 Bond Street. It's a 3-unit. And what we are having a challenge with, and this is a challenge with some of these properties, is figuring out what is this thing going to appraise for once it's all fixed up. And that's really the key to finding these deals and doing this strategy of getting into these properties with no money. It's figuring out how much is that thing. That's like the number one key. What do we think that thing is going to appraise for or sell for once we've done our improvements? And of course it varies depending on what you do to the property and the appraiser you get. To be honest with you, the appraiser, it's a human being. It could fluctuate. So what I did is I hired a company to do what's called a desktop appraisal. So they don't actually go through the property, but you describe what you're going to do to the property, improve it, what you're looking at, and then they can pull a bunch of public information data, and then they compare it as an appraiser would. I mean, it's an appraisal, and then they came back. So they came back with a value on this thing of $164,000. So I was conservatively, because I don't want to overdo it, I conservatively estimated it was going to be about $120,000. If you guys have questions while you're watching this live, go ahead and comment on there. I think Nancy will be able to see them, and then she can read them off. But it came back at $164,000. So this is awesome because when somebody goes to do this strategy, they're going to go through a refinance most likely, and they can bring that appraisal with them to meet the appraiser and say, hey, I had this done before I did the work based on the work that I said I was going to do, and here's what they came up with. And it's hard to dispute that from one of their compadres, right? So now here's the key to this thing. We put out a minimum suggested offer for our contract on this thing of $75K, okay? So there's a pretty big spread, almost $100,000 of spread in this thing, all right? So how this works, there's different loan programs, and we broke this down last night pretty in depth, but essentially what you could do is get what's called a commercial loan, and this is working with like your commercial banker or like Investors Community Bank. There's Bristol Morgan, there's First National Bank. There's a bunch of different commercial banks locally here that you can use, and if you're watching this and you're not local, there's tons of small community banks that like investing in real estate. They'll go typically up to 80%, so they'll lend up to 80% of what that appraised value is, okay? So they're gonna do their own appraisal, so they're gonna get their own appraisal. So this may or may not be the number that their appraiser comes up with, but at least it gives you a pretty good idea of what it's going to come up with. So if we do the math on this, we multiply this by 0.8. If you can read my chicken scratch, it's 8. That comes up with $131,200 is what, if you go through and you either buy it using a commercial lender who will lend you at purchase off of the after repair value. Some banks will actually say, hey, we're going to do our appraisal before you buy it, and then we'll give you 80% of what that appraisal comes back in as if you had already fixed it up. Other banks will say, no, you go buy it, you fix it up, and then come to us and we'll refinance you out of it, and they'll look at it at 80%. But either way, they'll go up to $131,200. So if we subtract off, let's just say our minimum on here. Let's see, somebody left me a voicemail. Okay. That gives you a budget, if you wanted to get into this thing with no money, okay, of $56,200 for rehab / holding costs. $56,200 is a lot. You can do a lot with $56,200 in a rental, okay? So this is how we run our numbers when we're looking at properties, is we look at, okay, what do we think it's going to appraise for? We multiply it by whatever exit strategy bank we're going to use, whether we're going to use a conventional, which they're only going to go up to 75% typically, or a commercial bank. And there's pros and cons to both, which I'm not going to get into on here unless somebody has some questions on that. And then we take what's our purchase price going to be, and then we look at how much do we have either to bump our offer up. So if we said, hey, I think I can get that work done for 20 grand, and I really want this property, you may bump your offer up to say 100 grand for this particular property because you have that spread and you don't want to lose out, right? So there's different ways to do it, and you can do this with the properties that, or the contracts that we put out. You can do this with, you know, properties you have with your real estate agent, whatever the case is, or if you're just out there finding your own deals. This is how we typically decide what we're going to offer a seller for our properties. We use this exact same formula and strategy. So I hope that's helpful, Nancy. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. No, I think that makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to get on here quick, just kind of show you guys the numbers, because we had a lot of good feedback last night at the event, and I know a lot of people wanted to make it that couldn't make it. And we wanted to actually just break down this scenario now that we have an actual appraisal that came back. I wish we would have had it before last night, because we could have did this at the event last night, but that's all right. It's here now. So if you guys have anybody there tonight at 602 Bond in Green Bay doing my inspection, then you're welcome to join me if you want to come walk through it. And then here's the numbers. So it's all broken down for you. All you really have to do is come in. If you have contractors and you don't know what rehab costs are, come do that. There's an app you can get from Mr. Matt Hedstrom. I believe, Matt, if you're watching this, it's REI Pro, or REI Estimator Pro or Pro Estimator. We'll put a link down in the comments for it. You can download that app, and then you walk through the property and you just plug in the stuff you're seeing, and it'll spit out an estimated rehab cost for you. It's pretty cool. Anything else, Nancy?
Can't think of anything.
Comments or questions? Okay. All right. Hopefully that's helpful, guys. Hopefully we'll see you tonight. If you have any questions on any of this kind of stuff, feel free to reach out. I'd love helping. And we'll talk to you soon.